Okay, so I want to do some quick talk about removal of the flywheel on this. This is a 1.8 liter Yamaha crankshaft, the naturally aspirated. I don't know if there's a difference from the supercharged on the WaveRunners. This happens to be a 2016 Yamaha VX Cruiser high output 1.8 liter. So I screwed up a little bit in removing this, so I want to talk about that real quick. With all these specialty tools purchased from SBT instead of from instead of OEM, but you know, I got to think that they work just fine as compared. I don't see there could be any difference. It's solid steel. So anyway, so I boogered up this crankshaft here. I didn't do it, rather the previous owner. And this one's, to me, it's unusable. We'll throw in this other good condition used crankshaft. But in order to do that, we got to take off the transfer shaft, and then we should be able to remove the flywheel and the starter clutch at this using the specialty tools. So let's talk about this. So the shop manual. There we go. So the service manual is going to tell you to loosen the nut. Let's see, where are we at here? Number 4. So there's a nut that's inside this transfer shaft, number 4, and it's a 12 millimeter hex. I'll show you the tools in a second on that. You'll need a breaker bar, and anyway, it's saying loosen the nut, number 4, until it can no longer be turned out. Basically, it is standard threads, left hand reverse, or excuse me, left hand threads to loosen it. You know what, I might have said that backwards, but anyway, it's counterclockwise to remove the nut that they're talking about. 5-inch socket with a length of 150 mil, blah, 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 12 mil. Here's what I used. Okay, so there we go. So we got a 12 millimeter hex headed socket. It is, the shaft on this one is just right at about 4 inches long, and then a 1.5 inch socket end on here. However, the actual distance that this thing penetrates inside to grab a hold of that hex head nut is 2.5 inches. So you need 2.5 inches of the business end on a socket. If you take that measurement to Amazon, I couldn't find it at Harbor Freight Tools. They topped out at 10 mil on most of their kits. So, but anyway, that's what you need. So the part that I screwed up is I did not read a little bit further down here before proceeding. So loosen the special nut 4 until it can no longer be turned. Well, that's you know, all relative to how much effort you want to put into it. So I put heat on that son of a gun for 20 minutes. The step above here, sorry, I should have showed you that. Flywheel magneto removal. Remove generator cover, obviously. Okay, heat the transfer shaft number 1 for 20 to 30 minutes using a heat gun number 2. So they're pointing it right at about that ring. Yeah. So let me show you what's going on there. So my shaft is actually already off. I loosened it up. So disregard this gap. This gap does not exist on yours yet. So what they're trying to get you to do is heat up right about line of sight. Drop a line straight down this magneto. Bam. Right there. That's just start heating right there for 30 minutes. Don't short it and do 20. Do 30 minutes. You're trying to cook this. I mean, this thing is really torqued on. You're just trying to cook that thing and really get it to heat separate. All right. So we've heated it for 30 minutes. Now, step 3. Hold the flywheel magneto number 1. Where'd I go here? Visually, my reading glasses suck. Using the special service tools number 2 and 3, and then loosen the special nut 4. So we have specialty tools number 2, the big round donut that sits on the inside, and then we have the rod that goes on there. We're also using the 12 millimeter hex headed socket and our breaker bar here, and we're trying to remove special nut 4, and then loosen the special nut 4. Loosen the special nut 4 until it can no longer be turned. Use a hexagonal socket, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so here's what I did. It says until it can no longer be turned. So I stuffed this sucker in there. All right. I put my breaker bar on there, and then I shoved this guy onto there, the specialty tool. This is from SBT. It's got a little kind of a flat notch right there at the entry. There you go, you'll see that a little better. Flat notch right there. Those flat notches are trying to adapt to these little flat spots. There's one here and one on the reverse side. So you need an angle on that thing that's going to connect, and that's going to be about yay. All right, so this is going to hold your whole, basically your whole crankshaft. Just hold it there. Then you're supposed to counterclockwise rotate this sucker with a breaker bar, and until the nut is loose. So here's your setup. Breaker bar down to the 12 mil socket that goes hex head socket. Then you got your specialty tool. That's just a holding bar. That's all that sucker is. And I cranked and I cranked and I cranked, and I could not break this sucker free. So my dumbass decides I'm going to take my pipe from my floor jack down there anyway, and I'm gonna give myself a cheater bar. So I put the whole thing down on the floor on this rubber mat. I took that holding shaft there and I trapped it underneath my workbench, and then I started pulling on the sucker with my 4.5 foot cheater bar this way, and put everything I possibly had into it. And finally it cracked. It cracked loud, it cracked scary, it sounded like it broke, bang! But it only moved a little bit, just a hair. So then I put it back in. I thought I broke something. I just kept going and going, and it's very, very difficult to turn. And eventually it felt like it quit turning, but I didn't know. It says until it stops turning. So I didn't really read this far. So that's to my error. What you're supposed to do is go till you feel you're putting muscle in this thing and you just feel like it's gonna break again. If you go any further, you're done. That's it. Now what they want you to do is simply this. All right, we go to the bottom of the left page. Hold the flywheel magneto using that same middle specialty tool that we had on there, and then remove the transfer shaft using this special service tool number 5. This is where I screwed up. I didn't actually read ahead to this page. I just kept going because I was still turning it, and it turned, and it actually broke the whole thing free, but it did not take out the that hex nut in there. It just broke the whole thing free by chance, which it wasn't supposed to do. And you don't want to use that hex head nut in there to do the next step. You want this specialty tool, the spline tool. Right. So this guy's supposed to go in there next, and now you can hold this in place because this is connected to your actual flywheel. The stub on here, this threaded looking stub here. Sorry, let me focus. Come on. This and this piece right here, this grayed out metal with a flat spot, is part of your flywheel itself. Or your assembly, I should say. I'm pretty positive it's part of the flywheel. Anyway, they want you to use this specialty tool and then this specialty tool, and they want you to crank it out from the inside using these splines so that you don't accidentally booger out that hex head, I think is what the purpose is there. So next you should be cranking out, again, counterclockwise, normal removal on that specialty tool there. Turn my lights on here. There we go. So for that, if you're using the SBT version of this tool here, you're going to need a 22 mil socket on there, and then your breaker bar goes to there. All right, so there's your configuration. You got their stabilizer bar hooked up. You got your breaker bar in place with your 22 mil socket on there, and then you're inside with your splined tool going into focus. Come on, buddy. And you see the tip of my splines on my black tool going in. And if I was a betting man, you're going to be putting every bit of your effort into this. Don't stop. it is counterclockwise for the rotation. Just keep going. Eventually it will break. It will probably snap. It'll sound like you broke some shit. Just keep going. And what you end up with, eventually, after a lot of cursing and oopsie feeling, is, hang on, it is going to continue to rotate out, and it will give you your transfer shaft. There you go. There's the back side of this guy. So now you're done with that. Next thing you have to do is remove your flywheel. In order to do that, I actually remove these, and I shouldn't. Don't remove these black Allen heads. Supposedly you don't need to, and I haven't done this part yet. But what you do is you use these two specialty tools. Again, SBT. So you got this monster socket here, not socket, threaded, and then you have this threaded pin, threaded dowel pin, whatever you want to call it. All right, show you the concept of what's going on here. So this guy here, again, threads right there. So those are just going to thread onto the inner right here, and it's going to thread all the way tight, all the way against your flywheel. Do that off camera real quick. Okay, so we're threaded in. I didn't torque it. I didn't do anything. I just threaded it down. Now, this guy is going to go in there, and it's going to be pushing it against this solid end of your actual crankshaft nose here. This is all one piece, all milled in. So, well, you know, I won't swear that this is probably pressed in. I have no idea. So, going in here, and you're going to need to get that 22 mil socket on here. Excuse me, that ain't a 22. Hang on. There you go. All right, so you get your 17 mil socket on this guy. You're going to hold this playa with a big old crescent wrench, or you could probably put this in a vise. I'm sure there's a million other ways. You gotta put the camera down. So your tool set up, so you got your breaker bar on the 17. You got your crescent wrench just holding that black specialty tool in place. And now you're just gonna bring these two together. So, you know, in some way, shape, or form, you gotta go clockwise with this one, because you wanna turn that bolt, you wanna drive that inward, and you wanna hold this thing counterclockwise, the crescent wrench counterclockwise in opposed pressure. Let me see if I can set up a quick camera stand on this. And it's about as good of a camera stand as I'm going to get, and it's very likely that that's going to fall in the process. So I don't expect I'm going to be able to do that. I really didn't think that would be that easy. So, all right, let's see if our flywheel popped. Yep, well, it might have just been the first stage, I don't know. Yep, okay, so that was it. It came off a hell of a lot easier than I thought it was going to. And that's it. All right, so there you go. Hope that helps somebody else, because I struggled through this all last night. Even created a YouTube video that turned out to be wrong, and thanks to a member on the Green Hulk forum corrected me and showed me or told me how I was doing it wrong and said I need to take down that video, because yes, I was in fact posting a video that was bullshit. Yeah, there you go. Good luck. But a little, you know, I didn't think it was necessary to buy these tools, but you could probably work around most of this without these specialty tools. However, putting these things back on with proper torque specs, I think, is going to be a nightmare without these tools. So for me, you know, buy the damn tools, sell them on eBay after, or sell them on Facebook Marketplace. Somebody's always going to be looking for these things in your area. Yeah, there you go. Good luck, y'all.